Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Queer Journal. The Queer Journal is a podcast where I basically get to talk about all of the queer topics that are important to me. So, my transition, other people's journeys as queer or trans people, and just queer topics that are important to me. I know the last few episodes have been pretty heavy, so this week I wanted to do something a little more chill and fun. And I wanted to talk about Pride and do a little recap of Pride this year. Because I went to multiple Pride events. I went to one in June, and I also just went to one in September. And the one in September was giant. That's like an understatement. It was like 200,000 some people. So it was gigantic. But I have a lot of thoughts on it, and it was my third ever Pride event. So Pride is still kind of a new thing to me. But I have some thoughts, and I want to just go over it, recap the day, and I want to hear about your Pride experiences too. If you guys went to Pride this year, I kind of want to know how it's different for you, because I feel like Pride was very, very different this year because of everything that was going on. So this year I was actually working Pride. I wasn't just attending. So I was working Pride, and I was working a trans and non-binary hangout space. So I'm part of an LGBT organization in my state that really focuses on trans folks and non-binary folks, and our job was to pretty much put together a space for trans and non-binary folks to hang out and come together and rejoice and just be in each other's presences. And I pretty much got to set up the area. I handed out snacks and shirts and stickers. We had like trans flag stickers and non-binary flag stickers, and I got to meet a ton of trans folks and non-binary folks and allies and queer people, and it was so amazing to just like be in that space and kind of just soak that all in. So I personally was involved in a lot of the planning with the trans and non-binary space, and I think this is the first year that they've had it there. And we also had a trans march and rally, which was really cool. It's really nice to see organizations specifically making things for just trans folks and non-binary folks. And obviously, all of the legislation this year has affected everyone in the queer community. This is not just a trans issue. It's a whole community issue. But trans people have specifically been targeted. So it's really nice to be a part of an organization that really actually cares about that and wants us to be celebrated and heard and wants us to be reminded there are people out there that still do care about us and aren't against us, and who will rally behind us to be here and fight. And even if it's not fighting, just be here to support us and acknowledge us as people, because we're just people like everybody else, you know? But with the trans march and the trans rally, I didn't get to go to either of those just because I was working the event, and I probably did a little more than I needed to. I worked a little more than I was technically supposed to, but you know. But I got to hear a lot of the trans rally, and it was a lot of performers, a lot of drag artists, drag kings, drag queens. There was a really big emphasis on bringing actual trans folks to perform, which was really cool. That's the first time I've heard of an organization doing that, so it's really nice that this organization cares so much about trans folks. But I got to hear a lot of the announcements for it. I got to hear a lot of the performances. It's a bummer that I didn't get to go to any of them, but you know, hopefully there's next year. But from what I heard and the pictures that I've been going through, the event was amazing. And the trans march I didn't get to go to either, but also from pictures, seems like it was really cool. And I'm bummed that I didn't go to the march, but it was really cool to be able to work the table and just see so many different types of people and so many different identities. And I had a lot of conversations with fellow trans men just about life in general and like trans mass representation and things like that. And it really made me think, because trans representation is needed in general, like whether it's trans women or trans men or trans masculine folks, trans feminine folks, non-binary folks, regardless, it's needed everywhere. And it was just very interesting to get so many different perspectives on what they feel is represented and what they feel is not represented, and how they feel represented as people. And it was just really neat to actually talk to other trans people, because I don't really know a lot of trans people. Like, I know, like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10. So it was really neat to just be in the space of people who are so similar, but also so different. Like, such a big thing makes us similar, but we're all still so different. So it was really neat to just be in that space and have conversations with so many different types of people. And I was doing a lot of people watching, because there were there were some times of downtime where I was just kind of sitting at the table, waiting for people to come up, and it was just so fun to people watch. Like, obviously at Pride, everybody brings, their best and wears such cool clothes and has such cool, intricate outfits, and it was just really neat to see that and just people watch people interact with other queer folks and see people express joy and watch their faces light up as they get to experience it. It was just really neat to see. And I was really nervous about it in the beginning. I don't know why I was nervous. I think it's just because I have never worked an event quite to that magnitude. I feel like most people haven't. But I was really nervous about it in the beginning. But I'm really glad I was able to do it. And it also just really, it kind of made me assess my own representation. And like, it's just a very interesting experience as a cis presenting trans person. To be in those spaces and to just see, the varying differences of people and their transition and their progress, or, where they're comfortable in their transition. It's just very interesting to see, and I'm so glad I got to experience and talk to and interact with so many different types of people. It's just an awesome experience in any event, but Pride especially, because the whole point is to highlight on those, things that make us different, but also things that bring us together. So it was really neat to just get to talk to so many people. And I also got interviewed, too, about just being trans in the South and why it's important and why the Trans March and Trans Rally was important. I have no idea who did the interview. I'm sure it's floating out there somewhere on the internet, but I was interviewed, so that was pretty cool. And the event was pretty long, too. It started at, I think, like noon and went to like 9. I stayed till like 9 or 10, and I'm glad that it was that long, because it was really nice to just be at an event where the whole point is to just relish in queer or trans joy. Like, the whole point is to just celebrate. And I said earlier, it feels like Pride felt so different this year, because to me it really did, because after the really shitty year we've had, especially trans folks have had, it was so nice to just come together and it kind of just not think about that for a minute and kind of just be around people who also sympathize with us, but are also there to celebrate us and to celebrate themselves and to celebrate diversity and inclusion and whatever else. So, and see so many allies there, and see so many businesses come out to show that they are safe places for trans folks or queer folks. And it was just so nice to just be in that energy and that space, and to just remember, even being in the South, even being in conservative places, even being in conservative towns, there are still always people out there who are going to support you and back you up and be themselves alongside you and celebrate those differences and those things that bring us together. So it was just really, 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 really nice to be in that. And it's like, I want to go to a Pride event every month if that's how I feel. And it's just like, it's just so affirming to be around so many different folks of so many different backgrounds who can all relate on this one thing, and who are all supportive of this one thing, and who are all allies, and who are all just human beings trying to live their lives and celebrate themselves. It's just amazing. And there's not an event quite like a Pride event that makes you feel at home and comfortable like that. And I hope that was the experience for all like 200,000 people that were there. I hope that so many people had the chance to be comfortable and feel happy and be represented and feel like they were representing themselves in a way. And for a lot of people, I feel like it's a way for them to represent themselves that they don't get to in their average, daily lives. And I feel like for a lot of people, it's a chance to actually step into their identity, maybe when they don't, and maybe they don't have the chance to do that at home, or maybe they don't have supportive people around them at home to do that. So it's really nice to think about the potential impacts for a lot of people, and to think about the impacts for myself too, because it really just affirmed me and just like was a nice reminder that we're not alone no matter what, even if trans people have to fight for something or just trying to be ourselves or whatever else. It was just such a nice reminder of that for me personally. And one of the greatest things about this event is that I did not see any protesters. I know every single Pride event has protesters, especially one of this magnitude, but I didn't see them. I talked to people, I was talking to people afterwards, and apparently they were there, but they were like tucked so far back in a little corner where like nothing was going on, that they were just like not a part of it whatsoever. And that was so nice, because I was with an event this big, I was expecting like hordes of protesters to come out and be really present. But I think the lack of protesters and making sure they were in a corner was intentional, because like, yeah, you know, freedom of speech, obviously they're allowed to do that and they have the right to do that, but also nobody wants to see that at Pride, because the whole point is celebration, and it's not to and the whole point is not to be dragged down by any outside things like that, or have to witness things like that. So I'm very glad it was handled in a way where you basically didn't even think about protesters that day, and it was really nice to see, because it was nerve-wracking thinking about going to a Pride event that big, and especially with things like Pulse and just the amount of shootings that have happened in this country, and the countless amount of queer spaces that have been either taken or tainted in some type of way. It was very nerve-wracking to be in a space like that was so big, because so much can happen when it's a space. I mean, so much can happen anywhere, but especially when it's a space that big and that well advertised and that loud and that visible. It was very scary. Like it was very scary to think about. But I feel like having the protesters be in a place where they weren't super visible kind of took away a lot of that fear for me. And just being at the event, like just seeing so much joy happening, really took that worry and fear away from me. And it's also just a reminder that, like, even though it is scary to be visible, it means so much in moments like that. Like when you're at Pride and you get to see yourself be visible and see yourself be happy, or see other people be happy, or see other people celebrate themselves or celebrate you or whatever else, or see yourself represented. It's like, it all makes that kind of stuff worth it. And, you know, the fear obviously sucks to push through, and it sucks that it's even there. It sucks that we even have to be scared of that. But it's such a good reminder with things like Pride that we can be visible and we can be happy. And it was so cool to see, like, so many older queer folks there, because it's scary. Like, it's scary to think, especially as trans people. It's like, how long do we really have? And especially with things like Trans Day of Remembrance coming up, it's scary to think how many of us don't get the chance to get old. But it's also so incredible seeing people who have gotten old as queer people or trans people, and who have gotten to live their lives. And it gives hope, even for people like me, you know, even for adults. I'm in my 20s, but even for people like me who have started to live their lives and started to step into adulthood, it's so nice to see that we do get old. We do have the chance to get old. We are allowed to live full, happy, long lives. And it was just really nice to see so many different ages of trans and queer folks celebrated and represented, and it was just really, really awesome to see. And it honestly had me choked up a little bit, because I was talking on the ride home, and I was just reflecting on the entire day, because there was just so much to take in, and it was so nice. Like it was so overwhelming, and in such a good, positive way. And it was also really overwhelming in a good way, with how many vendors were there. There was so much stuff to buy. I only spent like $30. I got some really cute earrings, which I'll put a picture of up here. I got 3 different sets of them. They are so adorable and so well made. And I cannot believe I didn't spend more money though, because I wanted to buy everything. There was so much different stuff. There was like shirts, fans, pins, books. There was literally everything you could think of under the sun. So I cannot believe I only spent $30 at Pride. Overall, I think the event went really well. I'm really happy that I got to attend it. And of course, there are things that could be improved upon. There always is for any event out there. But there were 2 really big things that I feel like could be improved upon. And one of that is just more diversity, because Pride does bring a lot of really diverse people. We're all very different. Obviously, you know, there's certain things that make us the same, but overall, we're all just very different and very diverse, and there's a lot of identities out there. And I think it's very important to highlight on identities without taking away from other identities. And I think a lot of what was done was really good. Just the fact that we were bringing in so many different trans folks and so many different types of people and so many different types of performers, that was so good. But I also think, you know, there's always room to put different types of identities in the spotlight, and there's always room to highlight on different identities and represent different types of people. There always is. That's no anything towards my organization. We did a fantastic job, but I think diversity is so important, especially in spaces like that. And I think there are so many identities out there that it is more important than ever at a pride event to highlight on those. But I think there was a lot of good diversity. I just think that's always something that can be expounded upon, no matter what type of pride event it is. I think that's always something that can be thought about, and people can be aware of, just to bring even more diversity and inclusion into spaces like that, just because that is, the main focus at a pride event. That's kind of the whole point. So like I said, I think there's always room for more diversity in every space like that possible. And something else that was really brought to my attention that could be an improvement, and this isn't even just for pride events, this is just for the world in general, is accessibility. Because I know someone who's a wheelchair user who was at the event, and I'm sure there were other wheelchair users, and I saw a few other wheelchair users, and just mobility aid users in general. Just accessibility of the event, and because the only issue with things like this and events like this is that it's so big and there is so much walking, and I don't know if there was a tram. I don't think there was any type of system to, like even like a golf cart to take people around to certain, like, different locations and transport them more comfortably. Like, the event was so big, you kind of like, you needed to be able to navigate it, and it was a very big, expansive space to fit all that stuff in. So I think in coming years, next year and years after that, just having some type of accommodation for folks who might need some assistance navigating the event. It was really brought to my attention by someone I know who is a wheelchair user, and it just reminded me of the importance of things like that. I always know that that's important, but I think for not even just this event, I think for the world in general, accessibility could just be talked about more and expounded upon more and facilitated more, because accessibility is just so important. And like, it's the same thing with diversity. Like, it shouldn't be a hot topic for places to be accessible or places to be diverse. That should just be second nature. Everybody is welcome, and everybody has the capability to go to this place or use this facility or whatever else. That should be the standard. And I really hope that going forward, just the world in general can start to adapt that mindset. And obviously society has a lot of stuff that it needs to work on and move towards and progress towards, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we can continue to be a more progressive society, and it shouldn't even have to be that is being more progressive, but obviously that's what it's considered right now. So hopefully we continue to be a more progressive society and actually just really take that stuff into consideration and think about the people who need those mobility aids, or just think about diversity or inclusion or whatever else. And I think inclusion also includes accessibility too, because a certain type of person might not be able to use this facility or get into this building or do this thing because of a lack of inclusion of disabled folks. So I think it all works very closely together, and I think it's just important to expound upon that in any setting, whether it's an event like this or it's a workplace or whatever else. I think it's just super important to do that. And I obviously can't really speak on accessibility and wouldn't ever want to take away from the voices of people who are disabled, because it's most important that they're the ones who are speaking on this, because they have the most experience and it's their lives and it's their lived experience. But that's just my 2 cents as someone who was made aware of it and has had the chance to think about it and see it from an outside perspective. And I think, like I said, in all diversity, inclusion, accessibility, it all goes hand in hand. So just continuing to expound upon that, just not even for this event, just like as a society in general. I think that's just some of the really important stuff that we can continue to work towards and better ourselves, and just be aware of things like that, because it all starts with awareness. It all starts with being aware of other people and identities and disabilities and anything else you could think of, and also just being aware of the fact that we're all different and We're all just humans, and we're all trying to live our lives as easily as we can. And a lot of the time, diversity and inclusion and accessibility can help that. But anyway, I'm just really glad that I had the chance to attend this event, and whether I would have worked it or not, I still would have went. So it was really nice to be able to be in that space, and also to openly give feedback like that, because there is always, places for improvement, and there are always things that can be expounded upon and changed and fixed and whatever else, just to make the event better for everyone involved and everyone who chooses to be involved with it. And I think Pride this year was just so much more important than it's ever been, and it just felt so different, and the energy was just incredible, and it was just such a big statement. Especially, I live in the South, so it was such a big statement to have that many people come out in a state where it seems like it hates queer folks and trans folks. It was a huge testament to the resilience of this community, and I couldn't be more grateful that I was able to be there and experience it and be in that energy. And like, as a trans person, it was so overwhelming to see that much support, and so many people care about us, and so many people stand up with us and speak and lift our voices up, and it was just incredible. And I'm so glad I got to go. And Pride just continues to be more important than it's ever been. And I hope all of you are able to experience Pride, and whether it was this year or not, I hope you were all able to experience some type of upliftment and acknowledgement of your identity. And I hope you all have the space needed to feel safe enough to express that identity and to be yourself and be who you are, no matter what. And I also want to hear about everyone's Pride experiences in the comments. So if you went to Pride this year, you should definitely tell me about it, because I want to hear about it. I want to hear what everybody else's experiences were this year, and if it was any different than mine, or if it was similar, or anything else. So yeah, that was my quick little Pride recap. I appreciate you watching, if you are still here. If you like this podcast, please feel free to drop me a subscription, because new episodes come out every week. You get to see my beautiful face every week. And if you want to hang out with me anywhere else, I also stream on Twitch, and I post on TikTok. So all of that information will be in the description below if you want to drop me a follow in either of those places. And will say, I am 10 followers away from being a Twitch affiliate. So if you really like me, you know what to do. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!